Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to FM Youth Factory. This is episode number 30. This is Trungle Park. Trungle Park is in Mousehole. Trungle Park is the home of Mousehole AFC. That is probably the third highest rated Cornwall club. It's half an hour away from our home, but it will be our home for the year to come. Now, down here it says it was built in 2027. That's not actually the case. That's already their existing home. I'm assuming, as it's 2027 now, that they just went through some sort of expansion that just completed earlier this year. Field condition is perfect, so that would make sense that it was just finished. But the capacity at 1,800 is definitely big enough to house us for 1 year, or 11 and a half months, as it were. The reason behind the move is that our moderate expansion has become a bit larger of an expansion, and finally it's happening. We are going to expand our capacity by 50%, adding 500 seats for an estimated cost of $725,000, which obviously the club can afford no problem. Additional funding for the project has secured with a $550,000 grant, meaning the club is paying for a little over half of the expansion. It's going to take just over 11 months to complete. Start date is immediate. The build completion date is the 8th of April, which means right at the end of next season. In the final days, the final weeks, we will move into the new stadium. So we may get a match right at the end of the year in our new home. But Trungle Park, Mousehole, it's a half-hour drive from Sennin, from where we're at, from Land's End. While we are on the southwest tip of the Cornwall Peninsula, that's going to be on the southeast edge. It is kind of the larger town that exists in the area. Season review, of course, we just won the league once again. It was so much closer to this last year. But once we stopped having the insane amount of competitions where we were playing 2 matches every single week and we were suffering through fatigue and minor injuries, which we really lucked out, no major injuries within the squad this year. Also, of course, we then had to deal with the fact that we had a very fresh young squad with multiple changes to it, and for whatever stupid reason, the board is still extremely disappointed that we're not using our academy to supply players. We had 4 new players in the side this year. We used the U18s and the U21s on a regular basis for players on the bench who made appearances in game. We far exceeded what is the norm for using your academy players, and they were still extremely disappointed. That's a moot point. I can't get fired, but it just drives me nuts that we go to that extent, that a third of our squad is straight out of the academy, and we still can't get credit for using the academy. Anyway, notable thing, of course, is that home attendance was not quite maxed out as you went through. The league that we were in and everything left us a little bit short of capacity more often than not. So this season, having that 1,800 capacity is going to easily bring us up to whatever our level is, which last I checked, it was around 1,400. So we should actually get everyone who wants to come see a match there. We should see our average, I would think, this next season easily be up around 1,300. Sponsor money went up this last year by 12,000. That should continue to rise over time as we continue to climb. No broadcast revenue down this far. We're not too far off from starting to get that, but it's very, very small money for a few seasons yet. Corporate hospitality, competition prize money all went up this year. Matchday commercial was just about the same as the year prior. And we have finally left behind, we're still half star, but we have finally left behind Obscure and hit local reputation. We should finally get off the mark into the 1-star territory probably by next season. Best side for the year, Grigg, not quite a 7.0 rating, but definitely not as bad as I expected him to be. Made some decent stops here and there. There was absolutely some saves that he should have made, but was okay. But we've got a new face coming in for the new year. McFadden's still doing terrible, though. We just cannot get McFadden going. Would love to see McFadden develop as well, as there's definitely some potential there, but that left back is a real weakness for us. Mortland, as a rookie, just 19 starts. I think I selected Mortland for all of those. I managed close to half the games on the season. Close. I'd say I managed 20 plus. That doesn't mean that Mortland started 19 of those 20 and was never selected otherwise. Mortland wasn't always available. Mortland is one of the ones who had a minor injury. Mortland is one who had yellow card suspension a couple of times. I think a red card suspension once. So Mortland wasn't always available, but I'd say that I probably picked Mortland for 14 or 15 of those 19 starts, meaning Mortland was not a popular choice by our assistant manager when I wasn't selecting the team, and Wilkinson, for that matter, was the other one. I only picked Wilkinson to start maybe twice. Wilkinson started 25 times. So 23 starts selected by the assistant manager. Wilkinson was very much one of the favorites. Now, with the changes we have, trainer out, Fish out, will that utilize one of our left wings on the inside or on top and put both of them into a position to be selected regularly this year? Quite possibly. But is that eligible? I think what it was is that Ryan Gordon can move over and then one of them can play on the other side. And that's how we ultimately make that happen. But we also had a good backup here as well. So I think we had 4 choices and now we'll have 3 at the wings. Player of the season was Ryan Gordon. So that's good because he's definitely staying with us. I think something impacting that, though, is the simple fact that Donnell Traynor left late in the year and then came back, same with Fish, and it always interrupts that process, even though they never actually leave because they're with you, and then they sign the deal and the loan back instantaneously, so they never actually leave the club. But it does reset those numbers for the most part. Top goal scorer, Traynor. 15 was not what he had. He had more than 40 goals. But Gordon with 22 assists. Wow, that is a lot. That is a lot of assists. Player of the match, 9 for Gordon. Highest average rating, 7.4. Of course, that's not actually the highest. And Quintafera, 78 passes completed per 90. Nearly 1 a minute. Traynor scored 5 goals in 1 league match on the record breaker side. Atkins, 15 yellow cards, though. That hurt. Atkins was suspended constantly. And that, by the way, plus a red card. I mean, that had to be 5-6 matches that Atkins was out for. I think Atkins stayed healthy otherwise. And that should have led to more starts for Mortland. And I can't believe that the assistant manager disliked Mortland that much that he would constantly go down to the U21s or the U18s to fill Atkins' spot more often than not. Overall, best 11 for the club. Penreese in goal for that one. Quintafera and Schmizek now both leaving the club, so that's going to be a big hole to fill, while McFadden and Redknapp have been our long-term fullbacks and continue to be so for now. Amazingly, as bad as McFadden has been, McFadden does have potential, and McFadden is drawing interest from bigger clubs. I think we had a fullback in our intake that was pretty good, and they may be coming in sooner rather than later. Atkins is on our best defensive mid, our best anchors spot with Brooks. Brooks is definitely going to be missed here, but Moreland's doing all right. McDonald, Jones, and Bick all still on top, so we're losing Traynor before Traynor even makes the first 11. The only new face on the overall squad is Dan Kitching. Dan Kitching makes the bench where Grigg is. Chris Webb, backup, never been a starter for the club. But we'll see how things come with this season. Quintafera leaving us, Schmizek having already left. So will Webb become a regular starter? Wait, who is my other starter besides Quintafera? Was it Webb this year? Is this his first year as a starter? Or is he still on the bench? I need to go double check that now. Kitching, though, it's another one who's never been a regular for us, so surprised they're on the bench. But trainer, McLaren on the bench. Tom Fish on the bench. So two of those guys will never make the starting lineup. Really surprised that McLaren's down. But McLaren was that first one swept away from us. So he's been gone the longest. And then Mark Harvey, the other one. So the new faces have not necessarily made their impact. I'd say of this, the youngest one, the most recent addition, is Ryan Gordon. Okay, my bad. Chris Webb was the starter this year after Schmizek left. So Chris Webb is one of the starters. Current ability is still only a 60 for him. He's still got a ways to go. If we organize by that, he's still well down the list. But there's your problem in hand too, right? We went from 2 excellent center backs down to just 1, and now we're losing the other one as well. Quintafera is leaving us already with a current ability of 111, trainer already at a 109. Both of them are about to be gone from the club. Fish also leaving. Ryan Gordon is going to take over as our best player and almost certainly going to be the next one to leave the club with that high potential ability. Redknapp, I still have those hopes that Redknapp's somebody we're going to be able to hang on to because he doesn't have very high potential. Lanahan Penreese is a maybe. He should be a big player for us this season, but where we'll see, he could be a striker. Okay. Interesting choices ahead of me on what I do with the Wilkinson or Kasango Mutombo, kind of who steps up. Wilkinson definitely has the better potential over Kasango Mutombo. Kasango Mutombo, though, has the ability to remain with the club with only that 88 potential ability. I really think I need to start getting more of those players that have that 80 to 110 potential into the club, because they can develop and get maxed out and still not draw the interest from the highest levels, and they can be a big core in terms of our growth and development. And then have the wonder kids, whether they're actual wonder kids or not, but have those highest potential players come through, shine, and then move on. Having just 2 to 3 years of them in that constant revolving door of having to replace those, it becomes a little bit easier if we can actually build that core underneath or ahead of or around those players. So I'm going to start giving a little more attention to trying to get that core up to par, because that constant revolving door of the others can be problematic. And if we have the fallback, if we have a bunch of Redknapps and Kasango Mutombos that are pretty good, pretty competitive, just limited potential, they can help us get through these next couple 2-3 tiers. I don't know what the limitation is, though. I haven't gone through in recent times to make comparisons. What is an adequate, what's a good level for this tier, that tier, this tier, that tier, right? As you climb the ladder, what should the current ability be? We don't necessarily have to have the best current ability in a division to win a division. It's FM. Good tactics, good coaching can carry you through, even if you're not playing every single game. But that's the other thing. I don't play every single game. We've got to keep this thing moving. It's 2027 right now. We need to be hitting 2035 to get much of anywhere. So we've got a lot of seasons, a lot of years to come. We want to be champions of Europe, not just, oh yay, you reached the football league, which at this point FM24 is going to be on its way soon enough. But you do have the ability to transfer saves. Can we transfer a save though with a modded database that we started out in the 10th tier? and we climb into the Football League, right? We get into those 6 divisions that they have. Will it transfer at that point? Will we be able to, pick up that momentum? Especially if I've already deactivated 7th tier and below by that point. I would love to see if that would transfer, because that's, from what I've heard, that's going to be the biggest thing coming in FM24. FM25 is the major overhaul, major shakeup, if you didn't see the announcements regarding that. Now, we don't have all the details that you normally get in the run-up to the game, because September just started. We still have what, a month and a half until that's going to be coming out. So we'll start to get that soon, in a couple of weeks, a few weeks from now. We still have time, right? We're going to get through another season or two in time. But does that mean we're 6th or 5th tier by that point? Or do we stall out? Because we almost stalled out this year. Didn't expect to be stalling out this early. We just lost so many players. So again, as we now push forward, and I need to start pushing forward, I feel like it's starting to become a bit of a tangent, even if it is relevant here. How many players are we going to lose this summer? We got 3 more exiting the club now. But then, with them gone, who's a likely target at the moment? Right? Lanahan, Penreese, Ryan Gordon, maybe? McFadden certainly has started to draw some interest, and there are definitely some other players here with some potential, but not the current ability to draw much attention. So, who do you lose, right? Tom Fish is an 83, 157. He was already 78, 79 when he signed away. So, what we have for that, Gordon and Lanahan Penreese are the only ones that really fit that model. Maybe Atkins, maybe McFadden. But can we get the loan backs, hang on to them? Either way, we've already got 3 holes to fill. Always one of my favorite checks is the reputation rankings that come out yearly. For one thing, Liverpool is now on top, with the Premier Division, of course, topping that. Leicester, Bournemouth, Sheffield United, are they the 3 that are coming up? A few others that are going down, like Middlesbrough, reputation falling, so probably seeing relegation. Nottingham Forest, Brighton might be the other ones, as this, of course, doesn't update until a couple days later. I kind of wish they would get that portion of it right, but let's see how far down we are. A year ago, we had climbed to about halfway up the rankings. We're going to be much higher than that now, especially now that we've gone from obscure to local in reputation. That's going to be a fair bit higher. Here's the crossover point from obscure to local, still half star, of course. And we're not much further up from that. So we are just above the crossover point at this stage. One good news, though, you look right next door, and we're looking at a lot of teams that are right at the same level as we are. And then as we go up, not far, we're starting to see those 1-star previous reputation rating teams that have seen some sort of collapse, some sort of drop, and where we actually come into the 1-star, not far above us. Really not far above us. Also, one very noticeable thing, I want to say I was above that 50% mark last year. I think we had gotten maybe a third of the way up last year, so I think I am undervaluing where we were. But where we are now, right, this puts us right down the middle. There's our slider, and our scroll bar. The top is right here. That's where we're at, and the bottom is behind the face cam, all the way down here at the lowest team on this current list. So where we now fit in, oh gosh, let's see. Definitely top 25, without a doubt. Definitely top 20%, without a doubt. We've got to be closing in on 15%. That scroll bar has got to be somewhere between 15 and 20% of the way down. So we have really, really, really climbed those rankings. I want to say that once we actually do hit that 1-star, that's got to be hitting top 15, top 16%. So we're getting very close to that point now. So current updates For one thing, we're getting hit with a big tax bill from the payout that we got on the Ethan McLaren deal, where it put us up over $5 million. That payout ended up with $600,000-$700,000 tax fee for the year. I'm kind of glad the stadium was taken care of just before that, because it actually ends up cutting that down a fair bit, as we had already paid for the upgrade, the stadium upgrade, by that point. So with that already rolling through, it did decrease the net positive, the net income for the year. Balance now at $5 million. We are going to be paying that throughout the year, so I would expect we're going to see a bit less in terms of profit in the coming season, and especially now that we are professional. But we've got $5 million, so it's fine. Even if we take a little bit of a loss this year, we already know that there's a whole bunch of players waiting to provide payouts. So we are not going to run out of money anytime soon, even if we do take a little bit of a negative in the finances this year. The neat thing about that is we can, short term, take losses just fine, because one, no tax bill, cuts down on what you're paying next year, or the following year, and makes life easier to turn that back into some sort of profit margin. But also, you just cash in on the next one, or the next deal goes through. We may or may not collect money on all of these deals. At some point, some of them are not going to turn out, but there are so many net 50% profit deals in place that we're going to collect some money again here at some stage. 4 million, 5 million, 10 million, 3 million, whatever. We're going to keep getting paid, and ultimately we're going to see our finances get better and better in time. But we are now professional. We are moving up another level. We just got hit with a big tax bill. There's a good chance that we're going to be drawing a negative balance in the coming year. Good chance. I would be surprised if we don't. We are going to play in that larger stadium, so we're going to see some extra ticket income that we weren't getting. And then, of course, we'll be back at our stadium in a year's time with a bigger capacity that will just about hold us over for a while. That extra 500 seats, I think, will be fairly close. Let's check in on that, though. By the way, we are now 2 stars, adequate on the training facilities. The next request will be coming in fairly soon, so we can bump that to 2.5, especially now that we're professional. Finances are still secure, but not 5-star. They're just good. But yeah, reputation, that's the one that's finally going to start climbing. All right, so here we go. Reputation, now a 1458 out of 10,000. Started at a 1. Is the mark? I wouldn't be surprised if the mark is 1,500, where we get to a 1 star. Would not be surprised at all. Morale is still high. That's a 17 out of 20. Club attendance now over 1,500. So that's going to be interesting. We are going to be able to seat more in the stadium we're in for the year. I would expect to see around 1,500 a game. But it looks like as soon as we get into our new stadium, and especially as that continues to grow, as it was at 1,000 when we started the playthrough, now at 1,500, as it continues to grow, we're going to immediately be filling out that stadium. Immediately. So it's not going to be 1,100 a game. It's going to be right at capacity once again, and almost instantly calling for the next upgrade. Almost. Because we don't have the excess numbers. I think we'll have more excess by the time we get into the stadium, right? That's almost a year from now. Maybe we'll be at 1,700 by that point. So the call for a further expansion will be a little ways off, but maybe a year down the road after moving in. So 2 years from now, maybe we turn around and try to expand again. That's going to be an interesting year. The 1,800 capacity stadium is only 150 seated. So actually everybody's going to be coming and standing for the games, which is a strange one, as we are an all-seater. I'm curious what's going to happen with the 500 new seats. Are they also all-seaters? I would hope that they are. All last season repeatedly once every month or so, there was another message about the ownership possibly moving on. Right now, we are showing that they are enjoying life at the club. They have turned us professional. They made that decision themselves. So we'll see how that translates, how that goes forward. Right now, an average ticket price to one of our games is $25, where the season ticket price is under $400. Man, oh man, would that be nice. I spent a whole lot more than that for my season tickets for the Portland Thorns. Current season ticket holders is at $399. We should see that number grow. It was initially $300 with the 1,000 fans, and that's built up by a third, and that's built up by a half. So the season ticket holders have grown by a third. The overall fan base has grown by a half, and you could see that in time, as we continue to grow, it should be somewhat exponential, where it'll grow more and more rapidly, and we'll have a larger and larger fan base as we continue to see that reputation grow. And especially, I think, as we see this portion grow, right? We were completely obscure. Now we have a local reputation. We're going to have a newer stadium. We're going to be climbing and playing in a higher division. Suddenly, that reputation is going to take off. It's going to be on a different scale as we hit those higher divisions, especially as we hit the football league. Very small thing, but another expense that we're going to have this year is our renting Trungle Park for the coming year. $58,000 in rent. That's really small compared to, everything else, but still, those expenses all add up. Expectations for the year: win the league, reach the first round of the FA Cup, which is the same one we've had the last couple of years. Third qualifying round for the FA Trophy, though I could push that up higher. There's no reason for it, so we'll keep those expectations where they are. Our current spend, $78,000. Our new payroll budget, $1.5 million. We're not going to get anywhere near that, but I've only so far transferred a few contracts to full-time. Everybody else is still on part-time. I'm waiting to get into the new year. For one thing, we have lots of contracts that are already signed to start here in about a week's time. Rolling into new contracts and full-time contracts is going to be a process, and it's not happening all at once. But we're going to see that $78,000 go up significantly, but it's not going to be anywhere near that $1.5 million. It will go up. I think it's going to probably more than double over the course of this season, maybe even triple for that matter. Full-time contracts are definitely going to have a higher value to them. It's also going to place a higher value on the players. So clubs coming in, championship clubs, Premier League clubs, it's still going to be pennies for them to sign our guys. But the days of a $10,000, $20,000 deal being enough to sign players is going to be over for the most part before the end of this summer. And it's going to be a decent tool, maybe, for me to try to avoid losing some players. If I see that there is interest in a particular player, I'm probably going to step in and try to offer them the new contract early, get that done, and drive their value up significantly, and maybe stave off the offers till next year or till January anyway. That's going to be a tool that I'll try to use before I'm forced into selling players. 1st of July, so with the new contracts and everything set for the coming year, outgoing players are out, a few expiring contracts, a couple, the last two guys that had the current ability, one at the start that did develop a little bit, the 5-4 or 4-3 overall, I finally let those go. So we are now 100% youth factory, youth intake, graduate players. 100% across the board, the entire club. Now that that's in place, the new senior squad for the coming season, barring any losses, looks like this. I have called up 5 players. We had 3 outgoing, but I have called up 5, which means the squad size is a little bit bigger than it was, except I have also sent one player down, the backup goalkeeper Hutchings, who never played a single minute with the senior squad, as Greg played every minute because Greg was better and with better potential than the other one, and progressed from a 46 to a 47 over the entirety of the season. I'm really excited by his replacement, which will be Berchielli. Berchielli is already immediately after coming through the youth intake has been picked up by the German U19s and is playing. That's how good he is already, and how good his potential could be, that he immediately became the starting goalkeeper for the German U19s. He will immediately be our starting goalkeeper. Big upgrade from Greg. Also coming in with some decent current ability and potential is 16-year-old Sumahoro. Sumahoro can play on either wing or as striker. And from what I'm seeing right now, I think the best option for me is probably to leave Ryan Gordon, who has been incredibly effective as that right winger, leave him as the right winger and put Sumahoro on top as the striker, as the lone striker. That still leaves me with a glaring hole at the attacking mid position. None of the current players fit the role. None of them. So coming through the intake is Davy Arthur, a 50 current ability with an 86 potential. So meaning one of those guys that we might actually be able to hang on to long term, but not good. He's got technique. He's got flair. He's got almost no determination, just a 5, meaning between a low potential and a low determination, I think he'll get a boost from playing time, but he's slow. He lacks stamina. He lacks strength. He lacks just terrible positioning, though off the ball he's good. Positioning will matter defensively. His tackling also will matter. He's not going to help us with ball recovery hardly at all. This is not a good player, and he was the better choice for me. Ouch. I think what we really need to do short term is he's going to have to fill in at the beginning, but we need to retrain somebody. We need to retrain one of these backups to fill in. Now, Kasungo Matumbo is fine as that backup winger. We have Wilkinson and we have Thornhill to back up that left wing. I need to retrain one of Wilkinson, Thornhill, or Lanahan Penreese to play in the middle, because Wilkinson can absolutely take over, and I have a number of backup wingers. I just don't have that player through the middle. So one of them is going to start retraining after I make a decision on who I want to play in that role. Chances are it's somebody who passes well and maybe the slower of the trio, so you can get the speed out on the wing, have speed on top. Once again with Sumaharo, you have speed surrounding you. It's okay to be slower through the middle. So we'll probably pick one of those slower players among those 3 to start retraining right away, and then they'll soon replace Davy Arthur on top. Hopefully he gets some rapid development, but from the looks of it, it's just not going to happen, and he'll ultimately be the backup. But that still leaves me with a center back position. The other 2 guys we're bringing in is Umar Kamara. So if we do lose Peter McFadden, and there's definite interest out there, Kamara is going to have to step in. He's one of those guys we hope to hang on to long term. And then Ben Hassel comes in as another backup center back. So this is our replacement for Quintafera roster spot wise. But what about starter? Right now, candidates are Dan Kitching, moving out of that defensive mid, which would leave us with a glaring hole in that position. We would not have a backup, and I do worry about that, so I really don't want it to be Kitching, but I might not have much choice. Chris Webb has already bumped up into the starting role alongside Quintafera, but now who becomes the other guy? Is it Hassel? Is it Tom Evans? From the looks of their webs, I think the choice is glaringly obvious. Ben Hassel, another one straight out of the intake, is going to go straight into the starting lineup. They both have poor passing and poor vision. Hassel's is worse, so Webb is going to move into the ball-playing defender position at the right center back, with Hassel coming in on the left, which to me makes a certain amount of sense anyway, as Webb is a right fullback or center back. Hassel is left or center back, so it makes sense to have him on the left and Webb on the right. And other than that retraining to get a replacement in that attacking mid role, that completes that roster with two extra. It was Wilkinson, and he was getting the majority of selection anyway from the assistant manager, and then Kamara. And when it comes down to those three, Lanahan Penreese has good pace, not great. Okay crossing, not very good passing. I'm thinking he is not the likely candidate here to move inside. Thornhill, good first touch. Okay long shots, okay passing. Terrible pace. The dribbling and flair combination. There's a lot of things pointing me towards Thornhill maybe being the guy. And look, he's awkward, but he actually can play the position a little bit and does seem to play through the middle otherwise. Wilkinson is not a good crosser, but good passer and does a lot of other things right. So he could certainly play there. I think he could play there better than some. He's got the flair, high determination, also does add some pace, but doesn't have strength. I think there's a lot more going on. Thornhill seems to be the strongest candidate, the easiest one to shift over, though Wilkinson looks a decent prospect too. Maybe I train them both there so we can replace the other guy entirely. But for now, we're going to do Thornhill. And with that new roster, with the exodus of our three key guys, we're suddenly down to a current ability in the mid-80s and only 2 players even getting there. Only 4 players in the 70s and then a bulk of the squad in the 60s. It's another drop from where we were. We're better at one position. We've got a lot of guys straight out of the intake into key roles within the squad. A lot of the replacements a year ago were guys who had been with us for a year or two and had developed a little bit and had started to pick up an identity. I worry a little bit about the squad heading into this next season. As again, we are lifting another tier. We're another tier above. We're up to the 7th tier now. It's gonna could be a tricky season. I think we could go through something pretty similar to what we did a year ago, even without losing players. And if we happen to lose anyone up front, if we lose anyone this summer, immediately we could have issues. We could have some real issues in the coming season. I'm not as worried as I was a year ago, as we figured it out, as we made it work. And I think we could do the same, especially with the professional status. I think we could see some more rapid development, but we could have a difficult start to the year for sure. I'm not sure we're going to be on top of the standings until mid-season. I hope to navigate the entire offseason and get straight to the first match to begin the next episode, but I have a feeling that there's going to be 1 or 2 deals or 3 deals coming in place. I've already made the decisional moves. I've already made the squad moves. Looking at the under-21s now, it's finally filled out. There's enough of a squad here to have a first 11 and 6 backups, so that's awesome. Best current ability, Finn Coots. Finn Coots, though, compared to Arthur, whatever his name was, not any better. Not any better. Doesn't have the vision. Does have a 12 in passing, but really just isn't going to go anywhere. And without any low determination, he's not going to do better than Arthur. Their ratings are almost identical to each other right now. They're both, I think it was like a 50 and a 49. There's a little more potential here than there was. I definitely bumped some players up. A lot of these 18-year-olds just came out of the U18s, so it's looking a little better than it was. We shaved off 5 players from the roster, but we're still looking at, current ability 30s to 40s. That's it. Down to the U18s, though. I need to remove him for one. There we go. Rehashed squad now with the guys who are in the senior squad removed from the lineup. And here's what we're looking at. One player, Adekunle, was a tight choice between him and Sumahara. And I picked Sumahara over Adekunle. But that does give us a little bit of depth there. One player in the U18s that has the quality to step up to the senior squad. So we have one more backup there. We also have Cameron Duncan, who needs to retrain. We need to pick a position for him to get him off of that left or right midfielder, as we're not using it. Same with McNally. So we got two players that have a little bit of current ability, a little bit of potential. We're definitely reaching a phase, though, where we're starting to part ways with the guys that just have no potential. You can see everyone here outside of Dugan have a 70 plus potential. And why did I keep Dugan instead last year and still have him around and will continue to keep him around? Well, because that's two positions, that defensive mid and that center back, where we are very, very thin right now. So he's here for depth. One thing that this intake did better than previous intakes was the minimum current ability was 35 and above, where every other season half of the intake comes in and they're at a 30 current ability. You can see that we're down to 2 of those and they're already 17. These are guys that have some potential but don't have the right personality traits to make progress. But as we turn professional, they go from training twice a week to 5 or 6 times a week. We're probably training 5 times a week and playing once a week, right? Full professional status could and should start to see better gains for some of these players anyway. Not for everyone, but for some. We're going to see better gains than what we saw before. So I really hope that we can have a U18 squad of 40 plus across the board. Here, unlike those U21s, we do have 4 guys that are 50 or above. And if they make those gains throughout the season, they can and should start to play a role. Starting with Kamara, 59 and above for the entire senior squad, other than 4 players at the bottom. Arthur, Hassel, the concerns heading into the new season. I have some faith in Hassel that he'll grow, he'll develop, he'll pick it up into mid-50s fairly early. Arthur's a different matter. Arthur played well in his 3 games at a low level, but how will he do here? I'm thinking not so good. And that could be a factor. That's one of our creative positions, one of our key positions. We play the ball well down the wings, but through the middle is also one of our stronger areas. And Arthur's going to hurt that process. Can he be a hold-up play kind of guy who can dish off to either one of the wingers or one of those defensive mids who's coming up in support to set up shots, to set up chances, to set up our young, straight out of the youth academy striker who's going to be starting in Sumahoro. Big questions to answer, right? We lost Bick, but we had Donnell Trainer, who had the experience, who just bumped up a position, and then Fish behind him, who was a decent backup and already gone too. Bigger questions, bigger roles to fill this year than last year. A little bit more complicated. Big upgrade at goalkeeper, though. That's going to help. And the professional status, that's bound to help as well. But that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.